Right. Let's dive straight into this explainer. If you're a Kent Business College apprentice stepping up into management, it's really time we reframe EDI. Forget that yearly HR tick box exercise, you know the one. We're talking about an everyday, absolutely essential leadership discipline here. So let's explore how we actually build fairness directly into the DNA of your daily decisions.
It's a pretty tough question, isn't it? If you're aiming to be a future leader, how fair are your decisions really? Look, we all like to think we're fair, but in the completely chaotic reality of modern management, where you're making high-stakes calls at top speed, good intentions simply won't protect you. They won't protect you from legal risks, and they won't stop biased outcomes. Why? Because good intentions are, well, they're invisible. Inclusive leadership, on the other hand, is observable.
Which brings us to the mechanics of bias and why it's a predictable risk.
You see, our brains love taking shortcuts, and that turns bias into a highly predictable risk. Just look at these phrases. Not quite polished, not a culture fit, lacks presence. Honestly, these vague corporate buzzwords, they're often just bias standing there in a trench coat. They're doing an amazing job of hiding inconsistent standards. Fair decisions rely on clearly defined criteria and hard evidence, not just some gut feeling you have about someone's energy. So, to get this right, we need a shared language. Think about the difference between inclusion and belonging. Inclusion is basically just opening the door, right? Creating the baseline conditions for someone to participate. But belonging takes it a massive step further. Belonging means you literally don't have to edit or suppress parts of your identity just to stay in the room. Just being performatively warm as a manager doesn't magically create psychological safety. Genuine belonging does.
Now let's look at the legal baseline. You really need to know the law before you act. The law actually protects 9 specific characteristics across 4 main types of discrimination. Direct discrimination is straightforward, treating someone less favorably. Then there's indirect, which is like a blanket rule that accidentally disadvantages a specific group. Harassment, that definitely includes unchecked so-called workplace banter. And victimization is basically punishing someone just for speaking up. As an employer, your duty is to adjust and prevent. Think along the lines of ensuring reasonable accommodations for a colleague's religion or belief. So what does inclusive leadership in action look like? Let's open up your toolkit. Here is an absolutely brilliant, repeatable framework. Treat this 6-step process as your everyday go-to tool. Before you make a decision, do this. Number 1, pause. 2, define the actual criteria. 3, check who might be disadvantaged by this. 4, adjust your process. 5, record your evidence. And finally, 6, review the outcomes later. I'm telling you, it is practically foolproof for making legally sound, genuinely fair choices. Let's try navigating some modern scenarios and actually testing out your tools. Take a look at this number, 29.7%. That is the massive UK disability employment gap right now. Think about that for a second. Disabled people are employed at a rate nearly 30 percentage points lower than non-disabled people. This hard data proves something crucial. Our current corporate systems, those rigid interview structures, and a sheer failure to make reasonable adjustments, they are literally leaving vast amounts of top talent completely behind. And here is another seriously jolting metric, 6.9%. That is the 2025 UK full-time gender pay gap. It reinforces exactly why we absolutely must rely on hard data and inclusive systems, rather than just relying on, gut feelings about who actually deserves a pay rise. Governance really matters here. Progress only comes from measuring these gaps and actually taking accountability for them. Okay, let's put your legal toolkit to the test with a quick scenario. Imagine a college introduces a timed AI-driven screening test for trainee managers. Everyone takes the exact same test, so it seems perfectly neutral, right? But suddenly, the data shows much lower pass rates for ethnic minority and older applicants. So why is this happening? And perhaps more importantly, is it actually legal? Well, the crucial point here is that this is a textbook example of indirect discrimination. Even though everyone took the exact same test, the practice itself ended up disadvantaging protected groups. If the organization cannot strictly justify the necessity of that timed format, they are literally breaking the law. Look, automation and AI can scale efficiency beautifully, but if leaders don't constantly check the impact, they simply scale unfairness instead. This mapping brilliantly illustrates exactly where bias creeps into hiring. The risks are everywhere, from the wording in a job advert right through to unstructured interviews. But notice those inclusive actions.
You neutralize these risks by replacing rush judgments with structured evidence, validated tests, and totally objective criteria. Now, let's talk about the modern hybrid workplace. Opportunities should not track desk location. Flexible working can massively widen access to talent, but it also creates a huge proximity bias risk. If leaders only ever promote the people they physically see in the office every day, you are instantly disadvantaging those who work remotely, which very often impacts women and disabled colleagues. True hybrid inclusion means ensuring equal access to information and managing performance based on actual, tangible outcomes.
So, when you inevitably see bias happening, what do you actually do? You practice practical allyship. And listen, allyship isn't just a hashtag in your social media bio, it's an action-oriented influence. You have to notice the exclusion, name the unfairness, support people in the rooms where the actual decisions are being made, and change those broken processes. Basically, it's about backing people up when it really counts.
Let's get to your future leader commitment and start putting all of this into practice.
Right, here is your drop the mic to-do list as a future leader. I challenge you to commit to these 4 tangible actions starting today. 1. Pick one process to tighten up, like your interview scoring. 2. Identify one bias risk to watch for, perhaps your own reliance on looking for a culture fit. 3. Choose one inclusion habit to practice, maybe deliberately inviting quieter voices to speak up in meetings. And 4. Find one metric to review, such as who is really getting access to flexible working on your team. So, which of these are you going to tackle first? Keep questioning, keep improving, and start leading with fairness by design.